Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how you can implement Dagger. I'll show you how you can access the retrofit instance in your view model. I'm going to make a API call to the GitHub and then we will retrieve data and display it on the recycler view. So let's begin by adding the dependencies what we required for implementation. So for dependency we need the Dagger and the com.google.dagger one. Click OK. The second dependency we need the Dagger compiler. This is same com.google.dagger. Next dependency we need for the retrofit, and this should be the com.squareup Retrofit2. When we using the retrofit, so we need the converter JSON. This should be the same squareup Retrofit2. And next dependency we need the glide, and the last dependency we need the lifecycle extension, that is for the view model. Click apply and then OK, and let's see the build.gradle file. So we can see all the dependencies over there, but look for the Dagger compiler, and instead of implementation we need to use capt here. And when you make this change capt, and if you'll click on sync now, you'll see this error, capt is not recognized. In that case, go at the top of your build.gradle and add this id Kotlin -capt, and I am adding another plugin, that is Kotlin Android extensions. So this we required to avoid find view by id. So whenever we need to import any view, I'll show you later in my project when I'm going to implement. So now you see capt error is gone now. And on the main activity, currently I'm adding just a recycler view just to make the API call and get the data and displayed on the recycler view. In the next step, I'm adding some packages, one for dependency injection, that's for Dagger, and another package I'm adding for model. So inside the dependency injection, we need to create some classes. So first class will be creating retro module. You can give any name to your module class, and we will annotate it with the module. And here we'll be creating some functions which we are going to inject in our view model. So I'm first creating a function, the URL which we are going to hit to the API. And now I'm creating a function get retrofit instance, and this function is going to return us the retrofit instance. And inside this we are going to use this base URL. So we'll pass this base URL here, and since we added the JSON, so we'll be use that JSON dependency here, and then we'll call build. and we'll annotate this function as a singleton, also a provides. So when we call this function as provide, then we can inject this function wherever we want. And we need another interface that is going to call retro service interface, and this is the same interface where we pass our method and we create a function, and if there is any query parameter in the URL, then we define that and we complete our URL by passing it inside the get. And the query, it's going to be here as a query parameter. And it's going to be the string type, and then it will return call, and we need a model here, so we'll create a data class over there inside the model folder or package. In this class I'm giving name retro recycler list, and we'll define it as the data class. And now we'll see what kind of data we are retrieving. So it's the items, list of items, so it's gonna be the array, or we can see a list of certain types. So we'll define another data class, we'll give it as name recycler data, and define the variables, that is the name, first variable. Second variable we are going to parse description, so we'll keep it. And another is the inside owner, so we'll create another class, data class, as owner. And from owner we'll be using editor URL, so that is again the string type. So our data and model class is ready. Now we'll pass the same inside our retro service instance, and we'll import these. Now we'll go back to our retro module and create another function which is going to return us the instance of retro service interface. So I'm creating a separate function for it. It will return this retro service interface. And will annotate with the singleton and provides, so that we can inject this function as well inside our view model or wherever we want to access. Now we'll create another class, interface, that is retro component. So this is the main component where we define what classes, in which classes we want to access our module. And this is again the singleton, and we'll annotate it as a component, and we'll pass our modules inside this square bracket. So we just now created retro module, so we'll define it here, and here we'll create a function that is inject, and we'll define where we want to access. So we are going to access our module inside a view model. So let's create a view model first. And we'll define this view model inside our component. If you don't want to use here view model, then you can directly use the main activity. So you can directly access that inject inside our main activity. So it's totally up to you. Let's implement our view model now. So now I'll be injecting that retro service interface. So we'll be creating an instance of M service, and that is the retro service interface. So you see, we pass inside our component or view model, and that's the reason we can access this inside the view model only. And this is the, as usual, LiveData, which we are going to use it in our activity. So I'm just simply creating and initializing and then creating a function to return this LiveData. And I'm creating a function which is going to make the API call. So now we don't need to create a retrofit instance here, as we can directly access our retro service interface. So we'll directly call our the function which we define inside our retro service interface, and we'll pass the query parameter as the value ATL. You can pass anything. Then it's going to return us the retro recycler list. So I'll pass the same and import it. It should be outside. And now we'll simply call enqueue function. Then we'll override these two functions, on failure and on response. In case of on failure, we'll simply return null for now. In case of success, we'll check if response is successful, then return data, and data should be response.body. In case of it's not successful, it will simply return the null. And here we need to initialize our application class. So when we will create our application class, we'll come back here. So this view model implementation is not yet completed. I'll show you later. Before that, we'll implement our main activity so that we can initialize our recycler view. As you see, I can directly able to access recycler view without find view by ID. So that is the reason I have added that extension, Kotlin Android extension dependency in our build.gradle. And now at this point of time we need an adapter, so let's create a separate adapter for our recycler view. We'll come back to our main activity. First, let us implement our adapter. Now implement all the three functions. Here we'll inflate our layout. So we need to create our layout file. So let's create a XML. In this layout file, I'm simply adding an image on the left hand side and the two text view on the right hand side of the row. So we'll call a URL to get the image, and then we'll display the name and the description on text views. Now we'll pass the class name here, layout name here, and parent comma false. We'll use the same name what we passed in our layout file, and here also you can see I'm directly able to access image view. It is all because of we passed the Kotlin extension inside our build.gradle, so we don't need to call find view by ID again and again. So this image you can see, and I was talking about this extension, so Kotlin-Android-extension. So when you add this dependency here, plugin here, then you don't need to call find view by ID. And we'll use glide here just to get the image and display it on the image view. And we need a function from where we can set the data from the outside. We can update this list data. So our adapter is ready now. So let's use this adapter in our main activity. Now I'm creating another function that is for the view model. So here we'll be implement where he will be initialize our view model. And we'll use the view model name, class name here inside get. Here we'll set the receive data to the adapter. So that's the reason we created this set update data function over there. And then we'll call our adapter dot notify data set change. In case of else, so when we don't receive the data, at that time we'll display the toast to the user. So if for any reason if API is not able to get the data, then we'll display the toast message error in getting the data. And now at last we'll call make API call of our view model. Now the last step, we need to create another class, that is our application class. Now we'll implement this application class on create function. This is the first function which called when our application launch. and here we'll be initializing our retro component class. So we already created a component class for our Dagger. Now we'll be initializing it here. So this Dagger retro component is created automatically. We did not created it, so it should be created at the compile time. So if you don't see this, then clean or rebuild your project, so you will be able to see this class here. I'm creating a function which will return this retro component object. That's it for this class, but this class only called when we register it in our manifest. So let's register this class in our manifest. Inside the application tag, you need to call Android name and pass this class name. You see it automatically appearing. And since we are going to make the API call, so we need to use the internet permissions. So I'm adding that too. And as I said, we'll come back here once we create our application class. So let's call this application class in our view model. So we'll be simply injecting our view model by accessing the get retro component. So you see, now first we created our module where we have a URL and we noted it with the module, and then we created two functions inside it. We can access these two functions anywhere inside our view model. So here we are accessing that hem service instance of our retro service interface class. Even if you want to access directly the retrofit, you can inject it inside our view model. Now it is the simple our service interface as usual. This is our module class where we inject where we want to access our retro module. If you want to access inside our main activity, then pass here main activity instead of main view model, and then we initialize it inside our view model, and we created our application class. Here we initialize our retro component. When we did that, then we registered it inside our manifest file and added the permission. So let's run our application and see how it look like. There you go. So we are successfully able to implement make the API call, get the data on a RecyclerView. So everything looks fine to me. So guys, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comment section. Thank you.